My name is Bindi Shah, and I'm an associate professor in sociology in the Department of Sociology, Social Policy and Criminology in the School of Economics, Social and Political Sciences at the University of Southampton. My core research area has been in the field of migration, and I'm particularly interested in understanding what shapes settlement, citizenship, and belonging in the nation for new immigrants and established ethnic minority communities. This research has enabled me to develop an expertise in the role of social capital in overcoming disadvantage. Now, social capital here refers to resources, values, and social networks that people have access to in order to overcome disadvantage. I'm also interested in how gender, race, class, religion, and so on shapes access to social capital and the ability to mobilize social capital, which then creates differential agency and capacities to overcome social disadvantage. Recently, I've become interested in the role that sociologists and social scientists in general can play in helping us understand the impacts of climate change and biodiversity loss on marginalized communities around the world. The science related to climate change and the discussions and policy recommendations on climate change have largely been the preserve of natural scientists. But if we listen to nations from the global south at the various UN climate change conferences, and we look at the impact of COVID-19, which shows that the impacts of these global social challenges are unequal. And these unequal impacts call for an urgent incorporation of the principles of equity and justice in the actions, the decisions, and the policies we take in order to address climate change. So in relation to climate change, I've just completed a project funded by the Royal Academy of Engineering that focused on artisanal small-scale fishers in the Indian state of Kerala. This community increasingly experiences extreme climate events, coastal erosion, declining fish catches, and the lingering effects of COVID-19. And these factors not only affect the fishermen, but they also impact the fisherwomen who are crucial in the post-harvest drying of fish processing and marketing, but have very little say in decision-making. The project team included two non-academic partners. One is a Fisheries Research Technology Institute in the Indian state of Kerala, and it's funded by the Indian government, and it has worked with small-scale artisanal fishers in Kerala for a very long time. The other non-academic partner was a company based here in the UK that works on developing innovative solutions to climate change inspired by nature. The academic partners included a transdisciplinary team representing sociology, but also biosciences, computer science, and ecological engineering. Now, the goal of our project was to create an understanding of the social and technical solutions that can be developed to enhance capacities for adaptation and developing resilience to climate change amongst these artisanal small-scale fishers in Kerala, India. So it was a perfect opportunity for me to apply my expertise in social capital in overcoming this disadvantage. The social science element of the research in my project has led us to identify a number of social and technical solutions to help these artisanal fishers mitigate the impacts of climate change. Now, PPS has been brilliant in helping me brainstorm and also provide funding from the New Things Fund to develop some of these solutions. One of the solutions that we're developing, and that's really exciting, is a mobile phone app for Android phones the fishermen all use smartphones. And so what they can do is upload this app onto their mobile phones, and the app will provide them real-time data on where the best fish catch location is for the day, the most efficient route to getting to that location, and also any weather advisories for the day. This will allow the fishermen to plan their work, to save time, and also to save money on fuel, which has become very costly, particularly since the pandemic. Through the New Things Fund, we have now developed the app, and it's in the final phase of testing and refinement. And once it's ready, it will be rolled out to all of the fishermen in that community. PPS has also provided training and funding for the development of 2 policy briefs to focus on the sustainable management of fisheries resources. One policy brief will be aimed at local, state, and national policymakers in India, and it will provide a list of recommendations that policymakers can implement in order to maintain sustainable fisheries amongst small-scale fishers in Kerala. The second policy brief is aimed at non-governmental organizations and civil society organizations in other parts of India, and indeed in other parts of the global south. This policy brief will provide a list of coping and adaptation strategies that fishing communities have adopted in other parts of the world in order to mitigate the impacts of climate change. And it will also identify the conditions that facilitate or prevent fishermen and fishing communities from adopting particular strategies. Both of these policy briefs will be disseminated via the policy and practitioner networks of our Indian partner in the project. And we will also work with PPS to do a stakeholder analysis to identify other policymakers in other parts of the world who might benefit from these policy briefs. What has been really exciting in this project is working with an international partner and a transdisciplinary team, which has allowed us to identify a number of social and technical social and technical solutions. Now, the Android mobile phone app will have immediate social impact on the fishermen that I've already mentioned. But what's also crucial about this app is that it will allow the Indian partner to collect real-time data on ocean fish stocks, the GPS locations of those fish stocks, and also the color of the ocean at that location, which indicates the sort of the chemical nature of the ocean and the temperature of the ocean at that location. Collecting and analyzing this data over time will allow the Indian partner to develop longer-term policy recommendations for local and state policymakers in Kerala to put in place policies and regulations to sustainably manage the fishing resources in that region. Secondly, what we have found is that the artisanal fishers in Kerala are experiencing declining fishing incomes due to climate change and also other anthropogenic factors. And what this is resulting in is many of the young fishers moving out of fishing into other occupations and actually migrating to urban centers. Our research has shown how these factors are experienced differently based on class, caste, and gender, and has provided a number of recommendations for policymakers to put in place social supports that can help the fishing communities mitigate the impact of climate change and maintain stable communities and cultures and heritages amongst the fishing communities in Kerala. For me, one of the things that is sort of obvious to all of us now is that climate change has resulted in an existential crisis for humanity. And those of us who do research on this area can't help but engage with policymakers. But one of the things that I've realized out of this project is that engagement with policymakers and policy stakeholders is very context specific. So my advice to others would be, especially when working on international projects, is to talk to your international partners from the very beginning, because they are vital in identifying local and national policy stakeholders. So talk to them from the very beginning to identify these partners and also how to engage with these policy stakeholders. The second piece of advice that I would have for others is to co-write policy briefs with the international partners to ensure that we are using appropriate language and style that speaks to policy stakeholders in that region, in that country, in a way that really brings out the value of your research to those policy stakeholders in non-English speaking regions.